Welcome back to Captain Conspiracy. Today, we're diving deep, and I mean deep, into one of the most complex, contradictory, and politically weaponized stories in recent memory, Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, before we begin, let me be clear about what this episode is and isn't. This isn't a partisan hit piece. This isn't a defense brief. This is a forensic examination of what we actually know, what we think we know, and what's complete speculation masquerading as fact. Because here's the thing, when you have 23,000 pages of documents, competing narratives from people with every reason to lie, and media outlets cherry-picking facts to fit predetermined conclusions, the truth becomes extraordinarily difficult to find. But that's what we do here. We question everything, we follow the evidence, and we separate the signal from the noise. So buckle up, because what I'm about to walk you through will challenge narratives from both sides of the political aisle. And honestly, that's when you know you're getting close to the truth. Let's start with what's indisputable. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein knew each other for approximately 15 to 17 years, from the late 1980s through somewhere between 2004 and 2007. This isn't speculation. Trump himself told New York Magazine in 2002, quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. What is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." That quote is damning in retrospect, but here's what's interesting. Trump made this statement years before any criminal investigations began. He wasn't being defensive, he wasn't spinning. This was his genuine characterization of their relationship at the time. Now, what do we know about their interactions? We have extensive photographic and video evidence. In video, you can see them laughing together, Trump whispering something in Epstein's ear that makes Epstein double over with laughter. Trump is pointing at women saying, "Look at her, she's hot." This is a man clearly comfortable with Epstein in a social setting. We have photos from 1993, Trump's wedding to Marla Maples, where Epstein was a guest. Photos from 1997 at Victoria's Secret events, and this is significant because Epstein managed the finances of Les Wexner, who owned Victoria's Secret. We have the iconic February 2000 photo showing Trump, his girlfriend Melania, Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell all together at a Mar-a-Lago charity event. Prince Andrew is also in attendance at this event. The flight logs. Trump appears on Epstein's private jet log 7 to 8 times between 1993 and 1997. Now, this is important. All of these flights were domestic routes between Palm Beach and New York. There is zero evidence Trump ever flew to Epstein's private island, Little St. James. Despite Trump claiming in 2024, "I was never on Epstein's plane," we have documentary evidence he was. But the island claim, that appears to be false. Trump visited Epstein's properties. We have testimony from Epstein's house manager, Juan Alessi, that Trump came to Epstein's Palm Beach home for dinner. Interestingly, Alessi said Trump never sat at the table, he ate with me in the kitchen. When asked if Trump got massages there, Alessi said no because he's got his own spa. There's also a Maria Farmer account from 1995 where she encountered Trump late at night in Epstein's Manhattan office. According to Farmer, she felt Trump was leering at her and Epstein warned Trump, no, she's not here for you. Farmer claims Trump said he thought she was a teenager. Epstein's Black Book, that notorious contact directory, contains Trump's name with multiple phone numbers circled and highlighted in yellow. Only 5 names in the entire book were highlighted this way. Now, does being in the book mean criminality? Absolutely not. Journalist Julie K. Brown, who broke the story that led to Epstein's 2019 arrest, called the book really a red herring because Epstein collected contact information from everyone he met. But Trump clearly did have a real relationship with Epstein, unlike some people in that book who claim they never met him. So, to summarize, social relationships spanning 15 plus years, multiple joint appearances, flights together, visits to each other's properties, phone contact, and Trump publicly praising Epstein in 2002. This is all verified photographic, video, and documentary evidence. Here's where it gets interesting and contradictory. We now know the Trump-Epstein relationship ended somewhere between 2004 and 2007, but the reason keeps changing depending on who's telling the story and when. A massive oceanfront estate called House of Friendship, ironically, goes to bankruptcy auction. Both Trump and Epstein want it. The bankruptcy trustee, Joseph Luzinski, described it as 2 very large Palm Beach egos going at it. Each side was lobbying him, each claiming the other didn't have the money to close the deal. Trump won with a $41 million bid. He later flipped it to a Russian billionaire for $95 million. According to the Washington Post's investigation, there's little public record of Trump and Epstein interacting after this auction. This is the most widely reported explanation. Theory 2, the Mar-a-Lago ban. Trump allegedly banned Epstein from the club. We have Mar-a-Lago membership records showing Epstein's account was closed on October 2007. We have Mar-a-Lago membership records showing Epstein's account was closed in October of 2007. Brad Edwards, the attorney who represented 70-plus Epstein victims, said Trump told him this version in 2009. Edwards described Trump as cooperative and helpful, saying he was the only prominent person who voluntarily picked up the phone to talk to him. Here's what's bizarre about the 2007 timeline. Epstein was indicted in June 2006 for solicitation of prostitution. The FBI had been investigating him since July 2006. If Trump banned him in October 2007, that means Epstein remained a member for more than a year after being indicted as a sex offender. That's problematic. Theory 3, the employee theft. In July 2025, Trump offered yet another explanation. He said Epstein stole people that worked for me from the Mar-a-Lago spa. Trump claimed he warned Epstein, "Don't ever do that again." Epstein did it again, so Trump threw him out of the place persona non grata. The next day, Trump specifically named Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most famous victims, as someone Epstein stole from his spa. Now here's the timeline problem that nobody's really addressing. Virginia Giuffre worked at Mar-a-Lago in 2000. Social Security records confirm she earned $1,866.50 from Mar-a-Lago Club LLC that year. Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly recruited her from that spa when she was 16 or 17 years old. But Trump called Epstein a terrific guy who likes women on the younger side in that 2002 New York Magazine interview 2 years after Epstein allegedly stole Giuffre. So if the employee theft happened in 2000, why was Trump still praising Epstein in 2002? If the falling out was over the 2004 real estate deal, why did Epstein maintain his Mar-a-Lago membership until 2007? If the ban was in 2007 for harassing a member's daughter, how does that connect to the employee theft story? Miami Herald journalist Julie K. Brown, who literally wrote the book on this case, said, and even the latest iteration of this story doesn't make sense. She's right, the timelines do not align. The most likely scenario, multiple incidents over several years. The employee theft could have created tension in 2000. The real estate battle in 2004 damaged their relationship. The harassment incident in 2007 was the final straw. But Trump's evolving explanations, from refusing to give a reason in 2019 to being a creep in 2025, to the specific employee theft allegations, suggest the narrative is being refined for present-day political purposes. Now we get to one of the most explosive claims. Was Trump an FBI informant regarding Epstein? This claim originates with Speaker Mike Johnson in September 2025. Johnson said about Trump, when he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. Within 3 days, Johnson walked it back. He said, "I don't know if I used the right word. I said FBI informant, but I'm not sure. I wasn't there. This isn't my lane." His office clarified he was referring to Trump's cooperation with Bradley Edwards, the victim's attorney. Then the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt stated definitively, "I can affirm that is not true," when asked if Trump was an FBI informant. So what's the actual story? In 2009, attorney Bradley Edwards was serving subpoenas on multiple prominent people connected to Epstein. Edwards had consistently stated in 2018, 2020, and 2025 that Trump was the only person who voluntarily picked up the phone and said, "Let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want." Edwards said Trump provided helpful information that checked out, and that Trump gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward. But here's the crucial distinction. Edwards represented civil plaintiffs, not the FBI. Trump voluntarily cooperated with a civil attorney's investigation, not a criminal FBI investigation. Those are fundamentally different things. An FBI confidential informant is formally registered, given specific instructions, often compensated, may wear a wire, and operates under FBI supervision. Trump had a phone conversation with a civil attorney and provided helpful information. That's being a cooperative witness, not an FBI informant. Speaker Johnson conflated these two things, likely because it sounded good politically during a moment when Trump was under fire over newly released Epstein documents. When pressed, he admitted he misspoke. The DOJ Office of Professional Responsibility conducted a 350-page investigation into the Epstein case. They found no evidence that Epstein was a cooperating witness or intelligence asset, and they found no documentation of Trump serving as any kind of informant. In July 2025, the DOJ stated they found no credible evidence of unnamed co-conspirators or blackmail operations. Does this mean Trump didn't help? No. Edwards confirms he did. Does it mean Trump was an FBI informant? Also no. The evidence supports voluntarily cooperation with a civil investigation and nothing more. This is a perfect example of how partisan narratives distort facts. Johnson wanted to defend Trump, so he upgraded helpful phone call with a lawyer to FBI informant. The media then ran with this claim. 3 days later, it collapsed under scrutiny, but the damage or the benefit, depending on your perspective, was done. Let's talk about the allegations and court documents, because this is where things get both very serious and very murky. The Katie Johnson lawsuit. In 2016, an anonymous woman calling herself Katie Johnson filed a lawsuit alleging that in 1994, when she was 13 years old, Trump and Epstein raped her at Epstein's Manhattan home. The lawsuit sought $100 million in damages. Here are the facts. The case was initially filed in California and in April 2016 and was immediately dismissed because it failed to state a valid civil rights claim and had procedural defects. The phone number didn't work and the address was a foreclosed vacant home. It was refiled in New York twice more. A press conference was scheduled for November 2nd, 2016, 6 days before the presidential election. The plaintiff didn't show up. Her attorney said she received threats. The case was withdrawn on November 4th, 2016. The plaintiff has never been seen or heard from publicly since. The credibility issues are substantial. Investigative journalists trace connections to Norm Lubow, a former Jerry Springer producer with a history of attempting to sell fabricated celebrity stories. No major media outlet could independently verify the plaintiff's identity. There was no contemporaneous evidence, no police reports from 1994, no medical records, no witnesses beyond an anonymous Tiffany Doe who was never independently verified. Trump's attorney called it completely frivolous and baseless. But here's the thing, it was dismissed for procedural reasons, not on the merits. A judge never evaluated whether the allegations were true or false, so legally the case proves nothing either way. It neither incriminates nor exonerates Trump, it simply was not adjudicated. Now, Virginia Giuffre, Epstein's most prominent victim, who tragically died by suicide in April 2025. What did she say about Trump? This is crucial because Giuffre accused Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, and others. She testified extensively in depositions. In her November 2016 deposition, she was asked directly, "Have you ever been in Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein's presence with one another?" Her answer, no. She was asked if she ever saw Trump at Epstein's home, his island, his New York or New Mexico properties. Every answer, not that I can remember. She was asked, "When did Donald Trump flirt with you?" Her answer, "He didn't. That's what's inaccurate." Most importantly, did you ever see Donald Trump participate in those acts? Her answer, "I don't think Donald Trump participated in anything. I never saw or witnessed Donald Trump participate in those acts." Johanna Soberg testified she never massaged Trump or provided sexual services to him. She met him briefly at an Atlantic City casino during an emergency landing. Ghislaine Maxwell, in her 2025 DOJ interview, said she never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting, and that Trump was never inappropriate with anybody. That's significant. In 2025, the House Oversight Committee released over 23,000 pages of documents from Epstein's estate, including emails. Trump's name appears approximately 1,500 times across these documents. Democrats highlighted certain emails as damning. Let's examine them carefully. April 2011 email from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Quote, "I want you to realize that the dog hasn't barked." April 2011 email from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim," in quotes, "spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." The Trump White House confirmed the victim was Virginia Giuffre, but here's the contradiction. Giuffre testified under oath she never saw Trump at Epstein's house. She was asked this specifically in her 2016 deposition and said no. So what's going on? Either Epstein was lying in his email to make himself seem more connected to Trump than he was, or Giuffre's testimony was incomplete. But Giuffre's testimony was under penalty of perjury. Epstein's email was self-serving and written to an accomplice. Which source is more credible? I'd argue the sworn testimony. The phrase, "the dog that hasn't barked," is interesting, though. It suggests Epstein noticed that Trump, despite his allegedly spending time with victims at his house, had not publicly spoken about Epstein. Some interpret this as Epstein noting Trump could implicate him, but hasn't. Others interpret it as Epstein observing Trump's silence as loyalty or complicity. January 2019 email from Epstein to Michael Wolff, quote, "Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop." This is vague and uncorroborated. What did Trump allegedly ask Maxwell to stop? Bringing girls around him? Bringing girls to Mar-a-Lago? Recruiting from Mar-a-Lago? We don't know. There's no context, no follow-up, and no corroboration. And critically, this was written by Epstein, a convicted sex trafficker with every incentive to implicate powerful people who abandon him. Other Epstein emails from 2017 and 2018 show him expressing extreme animosity toward Trump, calling him evil beyond belief, saying Trump was among the worst people he'd ever met. In 2018, he wrote, "I don't know how dirty Donald is. It's wild because I am the one able to take him down." So Epstein claims to have damaging information on Trump, but he died in 2019 without ever releasing it. Why? Wouldn't he have used it to protect himself when facing life in prison? The Michael Wolff tapes from 2017, Epstein recorded by author Michael Wolff, show Epstein calling himself Trump's closest friend for 10 years while also calling Trump a horrible human being who does nasty things to his best friends. Epstein made various unverified claims, including that Trump first had sex with Melania on Epstein's plane. Here's my assessment. Epstein's private communications are self-serving and untrustworthy. He was a convicted sex trafficker facing disgrace and potentially life in prison. He had every motive to exaggerate his connections to powerful people, to claim he had dirt on them, to portray himself as more important than he was. His emails contradict sworn victim testimony. They're uncorroborated, and nothing he claimed has been substantiated by documentary evidence. That doesn't mean they're lies, it means they're insufficient evidence on their own. Contrast this with the flight logs, documentary evidence, the photos, visual evidence, and victim testimony under oath. Those are much stronger evidentiary sources. One of the most persistent conspiracy theories is that Epstein was an intelligence asset, Mossad, CIA, or FBI, and supposedly this explains a lenient 2008 plea deal. The specific claim is that Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney who approved Epstein's sweetheart deal in 2008, was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to back off. This claim originates from a single July 2019 Daily Beast article by Vicky Ward citing one anonymous former senior White House official. Multiple journalists have traced this source to likely being Steve Bannon, who was fired from the White House in August 2017, became close with Epstein afterward, and was a key source for Ward's 2019 book. Bannon is notorious for information warfare and has been quoted saying his strategy is to flood the zone with shit. Acosta has denied this under oath multiple times to DOJ investigators, to Congress. When asked directly if he was told Epstein was an intelligence asset, he said the answer is no. The DOJ's 350-page investigation found no evidence that Epstein was a cooperating witness or intelligence asset. But here's what is documented. Epstein did have extensive connections to Israeli intelligence figures. Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister and defense minister, met with Epstein 36 times between 2013 and 2017, all after Epstein's conviction. Yoni Karen, a senior Israeli intelligence officer, stayed at Epstein's Manhattan residence multiple times. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was a confirmed Mossad asset who received a state funeral in Israel. So the question isn't whether Epstein had intelligence connections. He clearly did. The question is whether he was a formal operative being tasked and controlled by an intelligence agency. The evidence for that is circumstantial at best. Here's the alternative explanation. Epstein cultivated relationships with powerful people as a form of social currency. Intelligence figures, politicians, scientists, business people, he collected them all. This gave him legitimacy, protection, and opportunity, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was working for any agency. He may have simply been working for himself, using connections for his own benefit. The intelligence asset theory is emotionally satisfying because it explains the 2008 plea deal. But the DOJ investigation found the real reasons were more mundane: poor judgment, concerns about witness testimony, jurisdictional questions, and Acosta's desire to ensure Epstein serves some jail time rather than risk acquittal. Those explanations are boring. They don't involve shadowy intelligence agencies, but they're what the documentary evidence supports. Let's put Trump's connections in context by comparing them to other high-profile figures. Bill Clinton, 26 documented flights on Epstein's plane during 6 trips from 2002 to 2003. Visited Epstein's properties multiple times. One aide claims Clinton visited the island in January 2003, though this contradicts flight logs and Clinton's denials. Ghislaine Maxwell in 2025 said Clinton absolutely never went to the island. Clinton has never been accused of any wrongdoing by any victim. Prince Andrew, multiple property visits including the island, photographed with his arm around 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre alleged forced sexual encounters with him on 3 occasions. Johanna Soberg alleged he groped her. He settled a civil lawsuit with Giuffre for millions and was stripped of all royal titles. He's the only major figure who faced direct victim allegations resulting in legal consequences. Bill Gates met with Epstein numerous times from 2011 to 2014, all after Epstein's conviction, at least 3 meetings at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse, sometimes staying late into the night. Epstein facilitated a $2 million donation from Gates to MIT. Melinda Gates called Epstein evil personified and said the relationship contributed to their 2021 divorce. Gates has since called the meetings a huge mistake. Les Wexner. The deepest, longest financial relationship, Epstein had power of attorney over Wexner's finances from the mid-1980s through 2007. Wexner gave Epstein his Manhattan townhouse and his Boeing 727. Maria Farmer alleges assault by Epstein and Maxwell at Wexner's Ohio estate in 1996. Wexner claims Epstein misappropriated vast sums of money but has never specified the amount. He's faced no criminal charges. Now Trump. Social relationship, 1980s to 2004/2007. 7 domestic flights, no flights to the island. Visited Epstein's Palm Beach and Manhattan townhomes multiple times. Relationship ended before or around the time of the criminal investigations. Voluntarily cooperated with victim's attorney in 2009. Cleared by key victim Virginia Giuffre in sworn testimony. Never charged, never directly accused by victims in court documents. The media coverage ratios are revealing. One analysis found 23-to-1 coverage of Trump-Epstein versus Clinton-Epstein in a single day. Another found CNN mentioned Trump-Epstein 92 times in 1 week versus 10 times for other connections. Conservative outlets do the inverse, heavy focus on Clinton's flights, minimal coverage of Trump's documented relationship. Conservative outlets do the inverse, heavy focus on Clinton's flights, minimal coverage of Trump's documented relationship. The truth is, both Trump and Clinton had documented relationships with Epstein. Clinton's plane travel was more extensive. Trump's social circle overlap was longer. Neither has been accused of abuse by victims. Prince Andrew has. Wexner enabled the operation financially. Gates continued meeting Epstein after conviction. Each case is distinct. Lumping them together as everyone in Epstein's orbit is guilty is intellectually lazy, but treating some differently than others based on political preference is equally dishonest. So after examining 23,000 documents, hundreds of photos, dozens of depositions, flight logs, emails, and competing narratives, what can we say with confidence? Trump and Epstein had a substantial social relationship from the late 1980s through 2004 to 2007. They attended parties together, flew on planes together, visited each other's properties. Trump praised Epstein publicly in 2002, including noting his preference for women on the younger side. The relationship ended in the mid-2000s through some combination of a property dispute, an incident at Mar-a-Lago, and possible tension over employee recruitment. Trump cooperated voluntarily with a victim attorney in 2009. Multiple victims, including Virginia Giuffre, have explicitly stated Trump did not participate in abuse. Trump has never been charged or directly accused by victims in official legal proceedings. Unsubstantiated claims include that Trump was an FBI informant, that Trump visited Epstein's island, that Trump participated in or witnessed sex trafficking, that compromising materials exist showing Trump with minors, that the Epstein files have been doctored. Suspicious elements include the timeline contradiction and Trump's explanation for the falling out, Epstein's emails claiming Trump knew about the girls, the 2002 younger side comment suggesting awareness of Epstein's preferences, the evolution of Trump's narrative from terrific guy to not a fan to calling it a Democrat hoax. The bottom line is that Trump was in Epstein's orbit, he knew him well, he socialized with him for years. He made comments suggesting awareness of Epstein's predilections, but the available evidence, particularly sworn victim testimony, does not establish Trump's participation in Epstein's crimes. Association with a monster does not make you a monster, but it does raise questions about judgment, awareness, and complicity through silence. The Epstein case is a Rorschach test. At the end of the day, people see in this what they want to see. Trump supporters see exoneration in Giuffre's testimony. Trump critics see guilt in the 2002 quote and the emails. The conspiracy theorist in all of us sees intelligence agencies, blackmail operations, and cover-ups at the highest levels. But after reviewing all the evidence, here's what I believe. Epstein was a predator who cultivated powerful people to insulate himself from consequences. Some knew and participated, others knew and looked away. Others were genuinely in the dark. Trump appears to be in category 2 or 3, someone who at minimum saw red flags and continued the friendship anyway, until either conscience, circumstance, or competition ended it. Is that criminal? Not based on available evidence. Is it damning? Morally, perhaps. Legally, no. And that's where we have to leave it. in the uncomfortable space between absolute guilt and complete innocence, where most of human behavior actually lives. Thanks for listening to Captain Conspiracy. Until next time, question everything, including me.